Hi, I'm Becca, and this is my booktube. Hi, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you're watching this video after watching a previous video. Welcome if you are new here. Today is Hobbit Day, one of my favorite days of the year. I love Lord of the Rings. This is not actually my hoodie. I just recently bought it for my husband and then promptly stole it from him to make this video. We also bought this cup, anticipating it to be a joint ownership cup. So we'll see who gets the most use out of it. But anyways, as I said, it's Hobbit Day. Today is September 22nd, and it is Bilbo and Frodo's birthday. When we enter the story of the Fellowship of the Ring, Bilbo is getting ready to celebrate his big 111th birthday. Frodo is celebrating his 33rd birthday, and the events of that birthday party send us off into the amazing story that is The Lord of the Rings. Full transparency, I am definitely one of those millennials that has only ever really seen the movies. I own physical copies of the books, and I did used to own a copy of The Hobbit, but I don't know where my copy of The Hobbit is. It has gotten lost in moving, but I got that as a birthday gift when I turned 17. I think it was like the one specific thing that I asked for was a physical copy of The Hobbit. And I have tried to read that book physically. If you guys have seen my other videos, you've definitely heard me talk about that before. I've tried to read it multiple times. I get to the same spot every time and then just lose interest. So I've never been able to finish reading it. I've always told myself that I would read The Lord of the Rings because I'm so used to seeing the movies. I love the movies so much that will kind of help me stay attached to the story. However, I still haven't read the physical books. I have listened to the audiobook of The Fellowship of the Ring as read by Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis is the actor who plays Gollum in The Lord of the Rings and in The Hobbit. He's phenomenal, he's talented, and he is one of the people who reads those books for Audible. So that has been really good. He's an amazing character voice actor, so he does a great job demonstrating who is talking just by accent or tone of voice. I even watched an interview with him where he talked about being physically present in a different position for the microphone when he recorded. So for Gandalf, because Gandalf is supposed to be this tall, imposing wizard character, he would try to position his body above the microphone and have the sound come down. And for Gollum, because he's supposed to be kind of like small and shriveling, and for a lot of the hobbits, he would try to position himself like lower below the microphone and stuff. And so yeah, I appreciate the love and dedication that he put into recording it, and I enjoy it all that much more because of it. So a little background about Hobbit Day. Like I already said, it is Frodo and Bilbo's birthday. Also, fun fact that I learned when researching for this video is that the original publication of The Hobbit took place on September 21st. So the book was released to the public for people to be able to buy it on September 21st, and then people, if someone bought it that day or even the following day, the events of the story were taking place right then and there. So they were able to pick up a book that was kind of present to their timeline as far as the events happening on a day that they were reading it, hopefully. So according to timeanddate.com, it's a website that will tell you about fun holidays and things like that. The first Hobbit Day was celebrated in 1978. That was the first observance of Hobbit Day. The American Tolkien Society made a proclamation. It was an organization whose goal is to further the study and spread the appreciation of the works of J.R.R. Tolkien and his son Christopher J.R. Tolkien, who in my research I learned was one of Tolkien's editors and someone that he would kind of write back and forth with when it came to his ideas and publications. And I know from other information that Christopher took over the Tolkien estate after Tolkien passed, and he was the one that got the Silmarillion published because Tolkien never published that himself. So yeah, 1978. So in a couple years, it'll be the 50th anniversary of the first Hobbit day. So I'm sure that one will be very fun, very exciting. Anyways, I have some fun facts about Hobbit Day. But before I move forward with that, this video is coming to you in 2 parts. I finally decided to buy a Book of the Month subscription. Obviously, Book of the Month is very popular. I feel like if you're anywhere in the bookish space, you're gonna get targeted ads from them. If they know you like to buy books and read, you're gonna get ads from them. They've had a lot of different deals and things. I just know that I've very often not leaned towards popular books. So it's hard for me to commit to a subscription service that is geared towards like popular books because I just feel like it's not for me. So I was kind of waiting. I then was pondering getting the subscription as a way of having content for videos. I was getting advertisements of a $5 first book subscription type discount. They definitely finally got me with a free hat with my first book discount. And so I added a little Tree of Gondor pin that I just recently bought. The thing that finally clinched it for me is the book that I picked, which you will see in a little bit when I show you the Book of the Month section of this video. But right now, we're gonna continue with some fun Hobbit Day information. J.R.R. Tolkien, who went by Ronald, was born to a pair of British parents who were living in South Africa for their work. And when he was 3, his mom and his little brother and him went back to England for like a family trip. It was supposed to be a brief stay. Their father unfortunately passed away while he was still in South Africa before he was able to go to England and be part of the family trip. And so the mom and the little brother and Ronald stayed in England, and that was where he grew up. And as a result of living in a lot of different areas of the English countryside, he used a lot of the towns and villages where he grew up as inspiration for his writing, specifically including a farm that belonged to his aunt called Bag End. So he used that name as part of his story. In his teen years is where he started to learn constructed language with his cousins. They were teaching him how to use languages that were made by other people and weren't part of real culture. And by his 20s, he had composed a book called The Book of Foxrook, which has a lot of early examples of his invented alphabets that we now see in a lot of his work. Another fun fact is that Bilbo's journey across the Misty Mountains is based on a group hiking trip he took across Switzerland in 1911. He went with a group of 11 other people, so it was a group of 12, and they hiked across Switzerland, and he used that experience as somewhat of a blueprint for Bilbo's voyage in The Hobbit with the dwarves. One thing that I find super interesting, which I've kind of heard before, but I've never heard this specific version of it, is that The Hobbit was actually never going to get published. Not that it was being stopped from being published, but he never wrote it for the sake of other people to read. A woman by the name of Susan Dagnall read it or heard about it and pushed him to submit it for publication. And then that happened in 1936. In 1937, it was when it was published, September 21st, 1937. People liked it so much and they were so in love with the story of The Hobbit, they asked for a sequel. So another interesting and fun fact about the Lord of the Rings sequel, it took 10 years for him to write it and submit it for publication. In this, he talks about the fact that like war took him away from his writing life. There were just a lot of other things that got in the way, and he would like get to a certain place in the story and he would just step away to do other things that were part of life. So it took him a little bit longer to write that one and to get it out. And it was originally published in 3 volumes, The Fellowship, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King, between 1954 in 1955. And this is one that I really, really love because it's important to me. But while there were a lot of other fantasy authors prior to Tolkien, he is referred to as the father of modern fantasy due to the impact that The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings has had on the 20th century. I mean, a lot of mythology that we lean towards as being fantasy mythology, I mean, there's a lot of it that's like ancient text and mythology from years past, centuries past, cultures past. But he is someone who really made this storytelling and this like concept of like this crazy thing happens. We've got this hero that has to rise to action. We get this band of people together that are, you know, all from different groups that are, you know, not really the kind of people that would normally go together, and instead we get them together. I mean, you think about it, like a lot of concepts that exist in Dungeons and Dragons and like just like I play Skyrim, so things like in Skyrim or things like that exist in games like Dragon Age and Baldur's Gate and Warhammer, like all these things that so many of us are so in love with as our escape from reality to just like have fun and imagine ourselves in another world. Like a lot of those exist because this exists. And so we have him to thank for that. One of the last things that I found really interesting, which I have heard before, but and I remember hearing it when I was listening to Andy Serkis read The Fellowship of the Ring, like when I was listening to the beginning of the story. Tolkien is very adamant that The Lord of the Rings is not an allegory. He actually really doesn't like allegory at all. Let me see if I can find the quote, because I thought it was so interesting how he phrased it. It says, "As for any inner meaning or message, it has in the intention of the author none. It is neither allegorical nor topical. As the story grew, it put down roots into the past and threw out unexpected branches. But its main theme was settled from the outset by the inevitable choice of the ring as the link between it and the Hobbit." He does go on to say that like authors are not unaffected by their life, so there are things that happen in real life that then kind of make it onto the page. But yeah, he basically is very, very adamant that this is not allegory. A lot of us like to look at it as allegory. It definitely draws the appearance of allegory, but that's not what his intent was. His intent was to tell the story. His intent was to pay attention to the ring and see where the ring led. Maybe I should make it a goal to like physically read these instead of continuing with the audiobook. Oh, good lord, I'm getting sweaty. It's too warm in this room for this sweater. Whew. Now that I've told you about Hobbit Day, let's jump over to Book of the Month Becca and see what she got. I was super excited waiting for this to come in the mail, and now I'm super excited to open it with you, and I'm excited to cut through this and show you guys what I got. I should have gotten a knife before I did this, but whatever. This tape is weak enough that a pencil works. Okay, I think I got it. I also think I ruined that pen. Here we go. This is the targeted ad. We'll see how I end up feeling about it long term. But they kept making these posts about the fact that you could get a hat if you signed up for Book of the Month. And there were 2 different options, I'm pretty sure. One said all booked or something like that. Maybe I can pull it up and like put it here. But I picked the well-read one. I don't usually like wearing hats because I feel like they sit funny on my head. But who knows, maybe I'll actually get use out of this one. And this, not a big book. That actually makes me kind of happy because it means it'll be a pretty easy read. This is Stephanie Garber's new book, Alchemy of Secrets. I think it's supposed to have kind of like a 1920s vibe. Up here it says, it starts with a class in an old movie theater. Folklore 517, local legends and urban myths. Taught by a woman called the Professor. Most students believe the Professor's stories are just fiction, but Holland St. James has always been convinced that magic is real. When she tracks down a local legend named the Watchman, who can supposedly tell you when you'll die, the world finally makes sense. Except that the Watchman tells her she will die at midnight tomorrow unless she finds an ancient object called the alchemical heart. With the clock ticking, Holland is pulled deeper into this magical world in the heart of Los Angeles and into the path of a magnetic stranger. Everything about him feels like a bad idea, but he promises Holland that her sister sent him to protect her. As they chase clues and stories that take them closer to the alchemical heart, Holland realizes everyone in this intoxicating new world is lying to her, even the stranger. And if she can't figure out whom to trust, not even the alchemical heart will save her. Book of the Month always does this design for their hardcovers. You always get like a really pretty dust jacket. This one also has like really beautiful sprayed edges. This looks like a hotel room key. But then you get that little Book of the Month stamp, month and year, and then you get this. I love these colors. These are really pretty fall colors. Let me tell you a little bit more about Book of the Month really quick. You can go to their website, which is just bookofthemonth.com, and you can shop through the books before you decide to start an account, which I liked. Because actually what I did was I thought about getting a Book of the Month subscription like 2 or 3 months ago, but the books that they kept offering weren't books that I wanted. So I was kind of waiting. I just set an alarm in my phone to remind me at the first of every month to go in and check. So that way when I did finally sign up, it was a book that I actually wanted to read. So when I saw that it was Alchemy of Secrets for September, I was excited because it's a book that I had actually been considering going to buy. Wild Reverence was one of the other options, but I wanted to be able to go to the store and buy that and be able to like have it the day that I bought it instead of having to wait for it to come in the mail. You can go to their website or you can use their app. You'll scroll through and pick the book that you would like. You pay a monthly subscription to be able to pick this book and have it shipped to you. You can, if you are a frequent buyer, like every month you're consistently getting a new book, you kind of add on points to where you can add on extras like this hat or other little things that they have. They also will send a little book sleeve for you if you complete a certain reading challenge and stuff. You can also go back and buy books that were previous books of the month. You can skip months. If there's not a book that you are really interested in, you can choose to skip and you'll be able to save that book option for a different order. They'll basically hold a book purchase for you. So if you use the link in my description below, you can get your first book of the month for only $5. Just click on that link and sign up through it, and you will be able to pick your very first book for only $5. Beyond that, the price changes and varies depending on what pricing option you go with. And I should also add, Book of the Month has audiobooks. All right, well, that is Book of the Month. And if you would like to get your first book of the month for only $5, you can use the link in my description below and let me know what you pick. Happy Hobbit Day. Please enjoy walking around barefoot, eating delicious food, potatoes, watching Hobbit-y movies, listening to Howard Shore, and embracing all things fall and cozy, because along with Hobbit Day, September 21st and September 22nd represent the beginning of fall. So happy fall, happy Hobbit Day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.